After spending most of 1804 dragging the keelboat northward, the Corps was very excited in the spring of 1805 to now finally be heading westward, directly toward the Pacific. They knew they still had over 2,000 miles to go before they would see the territory that any white man had ever seen before, but they were more than eager to set out. As the ice-clogged Missouri began to break up at the beginning of April, the Corps prepared to leave the Mandan villages that had provided them with such a positive and supportive home for the winter. Imagine what Lewis must have thought as he looked upriver just before leaving. Who knew what threats and adventures lay ahead? Who knew whether they would live or die? Who knew whether they would even live to complete the mission of reaching the Pacific? On April 7, 1805, the river was open enough for departure, and the keelboat set off downriver, loaded with journals and samples of wildlife for President Jefferson. Most of the regular supplies had been offloaded into the canoes and the pirogues as stock for the westbound permanent party. At the same time, the permanent party of 30 left Fort Mandan, finally heading west. 25 enlisted men, Sacagawea, her son Pomp, and her husband Toussaint Charbonneau, and the 2 captains. They were all in very high spirits. Lewis wrote, "Our vessel consisted of 6 small canoes and 2 large pirogues. We are now about to penetrate a country at least 2,000 miles in width, on which the foot of civilized man had never trodden. The good or the evil it had in store for us was for experiment yet to determine. I could but esteem this moment of my departure as the most happy of my life." With eager upriver paddling, the Corps reached the confluence of the Yellowstone River in just 3 weeks. By the end of the month, they were entering a beautiful set of high bluffs that they called the Missouri Breaks. They named the north end of the breaks the White Cliffs. Lewis wrote magnificently about the beauty of these striking bluffs. They were now very clearly in a different kind of country. But on June 3rd, the party paddled up to a split. There were 2 streams that joined to make up the Missouri that they were traveling on, but which one was the real Missouri? Which one should they take to continue on? No one at Fort Mandan had mentioned the split. The captains sent exploratory parties up each river to see if they could determine which they should take. After gathering as much information as possible, every one of the men thought that the right branch was the real Missouri. But both of the captains had come to the conclusion that the left branch was the correct one. Finally, the captains simply had to overrule them in a decree that they were going up the left branch. They would find out soon enough if their choice had been the correct one. The Great Falls should be encountered soon if they had chosen correctly.